30 people watched my own daughter tell me to get on my knees, basically, in front of the whole block, right there in my backyard, plate of ribs still in my hand. Let me back up. My name's Toby Sharp, 64 years old. I run Sharp's Auto Repair off Route 66 in Tulsa for 32 years. Built it with my own hands out of a rented garage bay and a used lift I paid off in 18 months. That Saturday was my birthday. Natalie insisted on throwing a cookout. My daughter, 31, married to Zachary 3 years back. Slick guy, good with words. He came into my shop 8 months ago calling himself a business consultant. I let him in because Natalie asked me to. That was my first mistake. By noon, the yard was packed. My brother Alfie down from Broken Arrow, my mechanic Dale, neighbors, my grandson Micah, 7, chasing the garden hose with a plastic wrench I gave him last Christmas. Natalie was on her 3rd glass of wine by then. I noticed, but didn't say anything. Figured she was nervous, hosting and all. I was at the grill when I heard a fork clink against the glass. Natalie stood up near the picnic table, a little unsteady, cheeks flushed from the wine. Zachary's hand was on her shoulder, pushing her forward more than steadying her. "I want to say something," she said, words just slightly loose at the edges. "Dad, I need you to apologize to Zachary, right now, in front of everyone." I set the tongs down. "Apologize for what?" "You've disrespected him since the day he came into the shop." She swayed a little, gripping her glass. "You've questioned everything he does. You make him feel like he doesn't belong in this family." Her voice cracked. "I can't keep choosing between you and him. If you don't apologize right now, you're not welcome in this family anymore, and Micah won't be seeing his grandfather." 30 people staring, plates frozen halfway to their mouths. Ted from 2 doors down, my brother Alfie going still by the cooler, mouthing something like, "Nat, what are you doing?" "Natalie," I said, quiet, "you've had some wine. Let's talk about this inside." "No." She lifted her chin, wobbled a little, gripped the table edge. "You apologize now or we're done." I looked past her at Zachary. He wasn't embarrassed for her. He was smiling. The same cold, satisfied smile I'd seen on him for months. He'd handed her that 3rd glass himself, I remembered now, kept topping her off all afternoon. That's when it hit me. This wasn't Natalie's idea, not really. He'd loosened her up, walked her right up to this moment, and let her do the part he didn't have the guts to do himself in front of 30 witnesses. "What's really going on here, Natalie?" I asked, slow. She looked away, blinking hard, like she was fighting to stay steady on her feet and steady in her own head at the same time. "6 months ago, you had me sign that management paper. You told me it was so you could handle small stuff when I wasn't around. Was that true?" Her face went pale under the flush. "Dad, don't! Do you own part of my shop now?" Zachary stepped in smooth as ever. "The paperwork's clear, Toby. 51%. It's legal, it's done." The yard went dead silent. A dog barked twice somewhere down the block. Micah stood frozen with the hose dripping in his hand, staring at me like he didn't understand why Grandpa's face had gone so still. Natalie swayed again, grabbed Zachary's arm for balance, and in that second I saw it plain as day. She wasn't in control of this moment. She never had been. "You want me to apologize," I said, looking at Zachary now, not her, "for building something you didn't build, for questioning a man who's been around 8 months and already owns half of what I spent 32 years on, and you got my daughter drunk to do your talking for you." "That's not," Zachary started, jaw tight for the first time all day. "No." I untied my apron, folded it slow, set it on the picnic table next to the potato salad. I looked at Micah, gave him a small wave. He waved back, uncertain, like he already felt the ground shifting. I walked past the grill, past Alfie reaching for my arm, past 30 people who parted like water, got in my truck, drove. 3 blocks away, hands finally shaking on the wheel, I reached up, out of habit, to check my wrist.
My father's watch. 20 years I wore that thing every day, saving it for Micah's 18th birthday, same as my old man did for me. It wasn't there. If you're watching this, drop where you're from in the comments. Want to know who's riding with me on this one. Some details here are shaped for storytelling, but the lesson underneath is real.
I ended up at Alfie's place that night, sitting on his porch with a beer I didn't touch. My brother didn't ask questions, just poured 2 glasses and let the quiet sit between us. "You knew," I finally said, "about the paper." "I knew you signed something," Alfie said. "Didn't know it was 51% of your whole damn life." I told him everything. The management document Natalie brought me back in the spring, how she said it was just so she could sign off on small purchases when I was at doctor's appointments, nothing more. How I signed it because she asked so sweet, because I didn't want to be the kind of father who says no to his own daughter over paperwork. "I never even read the fine print close," I admitted. "Trusted her." "That's not a crime, Toby." "Feels like one right now." My phone had been buzzing since I left the cookout. I finally looked. 40-some missed calls from Natalie, a dozen from a number I didn't know. Turned out to be Zachary. I didn't answer any of them. One text came through from Dale, my mechanic of 9 years. "Boss, you good? Something's off at the shop. Come by tomorrow." That was enough to keep me up half the night. I drove to Sharp's Auto the next morning, before opening. Same building I'd had for 32 years, same faded sign, same gravel lot. Except there was a new sign underneath the old one, printed clean and fresh like it'd been done days ago and just waiting for the right moment. Under new management, Natalie Wilkins, Director of Operations. My P didn't turn in the lock. I tried twice, slower, thinking maybe I had the wrong key. Same result. They'd changed it. I stood there in the gravel lot with the morning sun already hot on my neck, and I knocked. Footsteps inside. The door opened, and it was Zachary, wearing a clean polo, and there, on his wrist, my father's watch. Something in my chest went sideways. "Toby," he said, like a stranger at his door. Not Dad, not even Mr. Sharp, just my name, flat. "That's my watch," I said, voice steady even though nothing else in me was. He glanced down at it like he was noticing it for the first time. Natalie gave it to me, said it was a family piece that needed a good home. It was for my grandson. "Things change," he almost smiled saying it. "I need to get in my shop, Zachary." "I'm afraid that's not possible right now." He pulled out his phone, showed me an email with Natalie's name on it. Something about restricting access to the property until the family situation is resolved. As majority owner, she's made an executive decision. You can submit a written request for personal items. We'll get back to you in 5 to 7 business days. I put my hand on the door, not hard, just to keep it from shutting. "Let me talk to Natalie." "She's not available." His voice went cold and formal, like he'd rehearsed it. "Remove your hand or I'll call the police and report you for trespassing on private property." I pulled my hand back like the door was hot. He shut it in my face. The new deadbolt clicked home. I stood in that gravel lot I'd paved myself 15 years ago, staring at my own reflection in the tinted glass. 64 years old, locked out of a shop I built with my hands by a man wearing my father's watch like it was a prize he'd won. I pulled out my phone and started taking pictures. The new sign, the locked door. I recorded a voice memo, date, time, what he'd said, word for word, hands shaking so bad I had to start over twice. That's when I heard the side door creak, the employee entrance, the one that needed oil for 2 years. Dale slipped out, looking over his shoulder like he was checking if anyone had seen him gone. "Boss, I'm glad you came." "Dale, what's going on in there?" He pressed something in my hand before answering, a small flash drive, warm from his pocket. "That's everything. 3 years of invoices, payments, everything I could pull off the shop computer before they changed my login yesterday."
He glanced back at the building again. "Boss, something's not right with the money. I tried to bring it up to Natalie weeks ago. She said Zachary was handling it, said not to worry about the details." "What do you mean, not right?" "Payments to vendors we never used, amounts that don't match real invoices." His voice dropped even lower. "I backed it up because it felt wrong. Figured you'd want to know." I stared at the drive in my palm, small and light, like it shouldn't carry the weight it did. "Be careful, Toby," Dale said, already backing toward the door. "Please." He slipped back inside before anyone could see him gone. I drove straight to Alfie's, plugged that drive into his old laptop that night, hands cold despite the Oklahoma heat still baking through the windows. The spreadsheet loaded slow, line after line of numbers, dates, vendor names. Then I saw it, a row highlighted, flagged by some formula Dale must have set up. Discrepancy, $140,000, unaccounted for. I sat back in the chair, the number sitting heavy in my chest. Someone had been stealing from me, and I had a pretty good idea who was wearing the proof on his wrist.
I called the lawyer first thing that Monday, Philip Hartman. He'd helped me set up the shop's business license back in '94, back when he still had a full head of hair and I still had a full head of trust in people. His office sat above a bail bonds place on Cherry Street, one of those old brick buildings that's been there longer than the strip malls around it. He listened without interrupting while I laid it all out: the cookout, the paper Natalie had me sign, the locked shop, Zachary wearing my father's watch, the flash drive Dale handed me in the parking lot. When I finished, Philip leaned back in his chair. "That management document, you have a copy?" I pulled up the photo on my phone I'd taken of it months back, tucked between insurance papers in my filing cabinet. He studied it a long moment, jaw tight. "Toby, this isn't a management agreement. Read the second paragraph." He turned the phone toward me. "This transfers 51% ownership of Sharp's Auto Repair to Natalie Wilkins, effective on signature." The room went sideways for a second. "She told me it was so she could sign for parts orders when I was at the doctor." "That's not what this says, and unless we can prove she misrepresented it to you deliberately, it's a valid signed contract." He tapped the screen. "But if we can show fraud in the inducement, that she lied about what you were signing, we can get it voided." "How do we prove that?" "We start with the money." He nodded at the flash drive sitting on his desk. "Let's see what your mechanic gave you." We spent 2 hours going through it, vendor payments to companies I'd never used. I called 3 of them myself, right there in Philip's office, speakerphone on the desk. 2 said flat out they'd never received a dime from Sharps. The third said the amount on record was half what the books claimed. Philip wrote it all down, calm, methodical. "This is embezzlement, Mr. Sharp, clean and simple. I want a forensic accountant on this before we go any further. I know someone, Carol Jennings. She's sharp, she's fast, and she'll hold up in court." Carol's office was 2 floors up in the same building. Gray-haired woman, glasses on a chain, the kind of person who looks like she's already 3 steps ahead of whatever you're about to tell her. She took one look at the spreadsheet and started circling numbers with a red pen. "These transactions, every single one sits just under $10,000. That's not sloppy bookkeeping, Mr. Sharp. That's someone who knows exactly where the federal reporting line is and stayed under it on purpose." "How much total?" "Based on what's here, $140,000 over about a year and a half." I sat there with that number ringing in my ears. $140,000 of 32 years of work, siphoned out 10 grand at a time by a man who called himself a consultant and married my daughter to get close enough to do it. That night, my phone rang. Philip. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Dad," she said, voice thick like she'd been crying, "please, can we talk? You can start by telling me the truth about that paper you had me sign." Silence on the line. Then, quiet. "Zachary said it was just for efficiency. He said you'd never agree if we called it what it really was, so he told me to say it was small stuff. I didn't know it meant 51%, Dad. I swear I didn't read it that close either. You had me sign away my company, and you didn't read it? I trusted him. Her voice cracked. I know how that sounds now. Did you know about the money missing from the shop? A long pause. Too long. What money? I hung up. Not out of anger exactly. I just didn't have it in me to hear whatever answer came next. The next morning, Philip called me before I'd even had coffee. Toby, I need you to come in. Carol found something else last night going through the bank records you gave her. What is it? Your personal checking account. It's frozen. There's a power of attorney on file, filed 8 months ago, giving Natalie full control over your finances. I gripped the phone tighter. I never signed a power of attorney in my life. That's what I thought you'd say, Philip said. Come in. I want you to see this signature for yourself. I drove down there with my stomach in knots, and when Philip slid that document across his desk and pointed to the signature at the bottom, my name, my handwriting, or close enough to fool a bank teller, I felt something crack open in my chest that had nothing to do with the money anymore. That's not my signature, I said, quiet. I believe you. Now we prove it.
Linda Reyes ran a small forensics office 2 blocks from the courthouse, the kind of place with magnifying lamps bolted to every desk and evidence bags stacked in neat rows. Philip had called ahead. She was waiting for us with gloves already on. She laid the power of attorney next to 5 samples of my real signature, old invoices, a car title, a permit application from 3 years back. She studied them under a lamp for a long, quiet 10 minutes while I sat there trying not to hold my breath. "This is forged," she said, finally, no hesitation in her voice. "See the tail on the P in sharp? Your real signature flicks up at the end every time, all 5 samples. This one tapers down. Whoever did this traced or scanned your real signature and dropped it onto this document digitally. The ink density under UV light doesn't match the rest of the page." "Can you put that in writing?" Philip asked. "I'll have a full report by tomorrow." That report, plus Perril's financial findings, went into an emergency motion Philip filed that same week. A hearing got set faster than I expected. Turns out judges move quick when there's a forged legal document involved. The courtroom was smaller than I pictured. Wood paneling, a Texas-style flag I didn't recognize since I'd never set foot in an Oklahoma courtroom before, hard benches that made my back ache after 20 minutes. Natalie sat across the aisle, with Zachary and a lawyer in an expensive suit. She wouldn't look at me. Zachary sat straight-backed, jaw tight, like a man rehearsing his own innocence in his head. Judge Patricia Owens took the bench right on time, sharp-eyed, no patience for wasted words. Philip laid it out clean, the forged power of attorney, Linda's forensic report, Carol's accounting showing $140,000 moved through fake vendor payments, every single transaction sitting just under the federal reporting threshold. Zachary's lawyer tried to argue it was a family misunderstanding, that I'd willingly handed over control and was now having regrets. The judge wasn't having it. "Mr. Hartman has presented forensic evidence of a forged legal document and a documented pattern of structured transactions designed to avoid federal reporting. That is not a misunderstanding. That is fraud." She voided the power of attorney on the spot, suspended the ownership transfer of my shop pending investigation, froze Zachary and Natalie's accounts, and she referred the whole case to the district attorney for criminal charges. The gavel came down, and just like that, I had my shop back on paper. Didn't feel like winning. Felt like standing in the wreckage of something that used to be my family. Outside on the courthouse steps, the Oklahoma sun already hot at 10 in the morning, I heard her voice behind me. "Dad, Dad, please." I turned. Natalie was running toward me, mascara smeared, Zachary trailing a few steps back with a face like stone. "I didn't know it would go this far," she said, grabbing my arm. "I swear I didn't know about the money. I didn't know he forged anything. I trusted him, Dad, and I was wrong. I was so wrong." I looked at her, really looked. My daughter, 31 years old, crying on courthouse steps in front of strangers, the same girl who used to ride on my shoulders at the shop, asking why the wires had different colors.
"You let him get you drunk and use you to humiliate me in my own backyard," I said, quiet, in front of 30 people. I know, Dad, and I'm so sorry." "Sorry doesn't explain the power of attorney, Natalie. Sorry doesn't explain $140,000. Her face crumpled. Behind her, Zachary's expression didn't change at all, not one flicker of guilt, just calculation, like he was already working out his next move. I pulled my arm free, gentle, not angry anymore, just tired down to the bone. "I need time. I don't know how much." I walked to my truck. In the side mirror, I watched her sink down onto the courthouse steps, Zachary standing over her, not moving to comfort her, just watching her cry like it didn't concern him at all. That's when it hit me. Whatever happened next, with the charges, with the money, with the shop, Natalie was going to have to figure out on her own whether she'd married a man who loved her or a man who'd been using her the whole time to get to me.
The district attorney's office called it one of the cleanest embezzlement cases she'd seen in years. Forged power of attorney, structured payments under the reporting line, forensic proof, a paper trail even a rookie could follow. She told me straight, full prosecution meant Zachary was looking at 5 to 10 years. Natalie, as an accessory who signed off on things she should have questioned, 2 to 5. I sat with that number for 3 days before I called Philip back. "I don't want Natalie's kid growing up visiting his mother in a facility," I told him. "Micah didn't do anything wrong in any of this." Philip worked out a deal with the DA. Zachary would repay the full $140,000 within 90 days, leave the state, stay out for 5 years, suspended sentence with probation, any violation and he goes straight to prison, no second chances. Natalie would resign any claim on the shop for good, issue a public apology to my crew, and get probation too, on the condition she never interfered with my time with Micah. They signed it in a conference room that smelled like burnt coffee. Zachary's jaw was tight the whole time, like the paper itself insulted him. Natalie's hands shook so bad she had to sign twice. Zachary left Tulsa within the month. Heard through Alfie he ended up in Phoenix. Don't know, don't care. The last payment came through in September, full amount, wired in from somewhere out west. Whatever fear or shame pushed it out of him, I didn't ask. Natalie moved into a smaller place off 41st Street, started taking night classes for bookkeeping, real ones this time, the kind where you learn what a signature actually binds you to. She apologized to my crew in person at the shop, standing in the same gravel lot where Zachary had once told me to submit a written request for my own tools. Dale forgave her right there. Couple guys didn't say much, just nodded and went back to work. I didn't blame them either way. The first time I saw Micah after all of it was at a park off Riverside Drive. I got there 15 minutes early because I couldn't sit still at home. When Natalie's car pulled in and that boy spotted me, he took off running across the grass and hit me like a truck, arms wrapped around my waist, crying before he even got a word out. "Grandpa, I missed you so much." "Missed you too, bud." I held on to him a long time. Over his head, I saw Natalie standing by the car, arms crossed tight around herself, watching. She didn't come closer. Just watched her son hug the grandfather she'd almost cost him. We spent an hour by the river, skipping rocks, him asking 100 questions the way 7-year-olds do. At one point, he looked up at me, serious as anything. "Grandpa, are you still mad at Mom?" I thought about how to answer that honest. Not mad anymore, bud, just still figuring some things out. That's not your fault, though, none of it is. He nodded like that settled it for him, the way kids can just decide something's okay and move on faster than adults ever can. 6 months later, on his birthday, I gave him the watch. Cleaned it up myself at the shop. New band, still ticking steady after all these years. He was too young for it, really, band hanging loose on his wrist, but he wore it every day after that like it was armor. This belonged to your great-grandfather. And someday, it's gonna belong to you for real when you're old enough. For now, I just want you to know it's already yours. He hugged me so hard I about lost my footing. Natalie and I aren't back to where we were,
Might never get all the way back. She calls most Sundays now, drops Micah off on Saturdays without me having to ask twice. Last month, she brought over a frame she made in some class at the community center. An old photo of me holding her when she was maybe 5, both of us laughing at some park I don't even remember. Burned into the wood at the bottom. Thank you for not giving up on me. I put it on the shelf next to my father's old tool belt. 2 things that remind me what actually matters. The shop's smaller now, 10 guys instead of 15. I don't chase every job that comes through the door anymore, just the ones worth doing right. Dale still runs the floor like it's his own, because at this point it might as well be. Some Saturdays, Micah comes by in his little yellow gloves and hands me wrenches like he actually knows what he's doing. He doesn't yet, but he will. I built that shop with my hands over 32 years. Turns out, the harder thing to build back was trust, and that one you can't rush no matter how bad you want to. If you're carrying something like this right now, a family that took you for granted, a betrayal you didn't see coming, just know walking away isn't the end of the story. Sometimes it's the only way anybody learns what you were actually worth all along.